Dear viewer students, this is the third video on the same commencement address by Steve Jobs. In the first two videos, we discussed the writer's life in brief, and in the second video, we discussed the first story of connecting the dots. And in that first story, how Steve Jobs became a dropout in Reed College, and this dropout began in his life before his birth, before he was born. How that also I explained. And being a dropout, how it helped him, how it brought a turning point in his life. That he took calligraphy classes that helped him to connect the dots in future. So this we discussed in the last video. In this video, let us try to narrate the second story that is said by Steve Jobs as the story of love and loss. And here we learn two important principles. One is how to love one's job, that keeps us successful in our work. And second one is how to learn out of loss. So loss is something common in everybody's life. But that loss should not prevent us from doing our work thereafter. It should make us to learn out of that loss. And that happens in Steve Jobs' life, that is beautifully said in the second story. Let us see what is that in the second story. The second story starts like this. He begins by saying, I was lucky, I found what I loved to do early in life. I was lucky, I found what I loved to do early in life. Means he had interest in some entrepreneurship. He wanted to initiate a company. He wanted to start a company. And that was his ambition, that was his aim, and in which he had a lot of love. And according to his love, he was lucky enough to start working on a computer with his friend Steve Wozniak in the home garage. In his father's garage itself, they started working on a computer. Later, that happened and that became famous as Apple company. And this Apple company, when he started, he was just 20 years of age. And both of them worked together. Only two of them worked together. In 10 years, this Apple company had grown to be the company in a garage that became a company of $20 billion company. Actually, it started in home garage, and it started with only two workers, that Steve Jobs and his friend Steve Wozniak themselves. And after 10 years, it grew into a $2 billion company with an amazing number of employees, that is 4,000 employees. And this is how the best success they could get, and that produced as the first creation, that is Macintosh computer. The Macintosh computer was first introduced by this company, Apple company. Like this went on, but one day Steve Jobs decided to hire a person with great talent, which will be useful to run their company on the path of greater success. And that's why he invited a person who had a considerable, remarkable talent. And after he came and joined, it went everything well for 1 year. And after a year, there had been a fallout between Steve Jobs and that talented person. And that talented person, when they decided to depart from one another, the talented person hijacked the company by making all the directors to side him, to support him. And in this way, Steve Jobs, who actually was the founder of that company, Apple company, he himself was thrown out of that company. And he was a fish thrown out of water. And he was completely devastated. He was completely in a devastating situation. Because the early success of the company within 10 years that was grown to be the company of $2 billion with 4,000 employees. And this talented person who was invited by Steve Jobs himself, he himself hijacked the company by making all the directors to support him. He threw him away. He threw Steve Jobs himself away. And Steve Jobs became the fish thrown out of water. And he felt completely disappointed. And he was a public failure. And he couldn't show his face to anybody. And he was very much in sorrow. He was very much in disappointment. And completely he was in darkness. For a few days he couldn't understand what to do, whom to meet, and how to get rid of, how to recover this kind of a loss in his life. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ let us see the second story. Second story is the story of love and loss. What does it mean by love and loss? Steve Jobs loves working on something, some invention, working on some invention. So, according to his love, he established a company. ಅವನು ಏನಾದರೂ ಒಂದು ಆವಿಷ್ಕಾರ ಮಾಡುವ ಒಂದು ಅದ್ಭುತವಾದ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ ಆವಿಷ್ಕಾರ ಮಾಡುವುದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಅವನಿಗೊಂದು ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿತ್ತು. ಅದನ್ನು ತುಂಬ ಅವನು ಪ್ರೀತಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದ, ತುಂಬ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಿದ್ದ. ಅವನ ಇಷ್ಟಕ್ಕನುಗುಣವಾಗಿ ಸ್ಟೀವ್ ಜಾಬ್ಸ್ ಒಂದು ಕಂಪನಿಯನ್ನು ಎಸ್ಟಾಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಅದು ಎಲ್ಲಿ? ಸ್ವತಃ ಅವರ ಹೋಮ್ ಗ್ಯಾರೇಜ್. ಅವರ ಅಪ್ಪ ಮತ್ತು ಅವನು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನಿಕ್ಸ್ ವರ್ಕನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಕಂಪನಿ, ಆ ಒಂದು ಗ್ಯಾರೇಜ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕಂಪನಿಯನ್ನು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಅದು ತನ್ನ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬ ಕೋ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಸ್ಟೀವ್ ಓಜ್ನಾಯ್ಕ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಜೊತೆಗೆ, ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಸ್ಟೀವ್ ಓಜ್ನಾಯ್ಕ್, ಇವರಿಬ್ಬರು ಸೇರಿ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಯನ್ನು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಗ್ಯಾರೇಜ್ನಾಗೆ. ಕೇವಲ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಇಂದ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆದಂಥ ಈ ಕಂಪನಿ ಕೇವಲ 10 ವರ್ಷಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೃಹದಾಕಾರವಾಗಿ ಬೆಳೀತೈತೆ ಅಂದರೆ $2 ಬಿಲಿಯನ್ ಕಂಪನಿಯಾಗಿ ಬೆಳೆಯುತ್ತೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಇದರ ಆಸ್ತಿ $2 ಬಿಲಿಯನ್ ಬೆಲೆ ಬಾಳುವಂಥ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಉಳ್ಳ ಕಂಪನಿಯಾಗಿ ಇದು ಬೆಳೆಯುತ್ತೆ. ಮತ್ತು ಈ ಕಂಪನಿಯೊಳಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ 10 ವರ್ಷಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ವರ್ಕರ್ಸ್ಗಳಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದರೆ 4000 ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯೀಸ್ಗಳು ಈ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಯಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಕಂಪ್ನಿನ ಹಿಂಗೆ ನಡೆಸ್ತಾ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ. ಬಂದು ಒಂದು ಮ್ಯಾಕಿಂತೋಶ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ನ್ಯೂ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಅನ್ನು ಇವನು ಫಸ್ಟು ಹೊರಗೆ ತರ್ತಾನೆ. ಆ ಮ್ಯಾಕಿಂತೋಶ್ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ನ್ಯೂ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಐತಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಅವನ 30 ವರ್ಷ ಏನೂ ಮುಗಿದಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ, 29ನೇ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಹೊರಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ಆಸ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್, ಆಸ್ ಅ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಅಂತ ಆಲ್ ಓವರ್ ದ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ಸ್ ಫೇಮಸ್. ಹಿಂಗೆ ನಡೀತಾ ಇರಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಈ ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ಇನ್ನೂ ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ಫುಲ್ಲಾಗಿ ನಡೀಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಇವನು ಒಬ್ಬ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಆಫ್ ಟ್ಯಾಲೆಂಟ್, ತುಂಬಾ ಟ್ಯಾಲೆಂಟ್ ಇರೋ ಅಂಥ ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ನೋಡ್ತಾನೆ ಇವನು. ಆ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಗೆ ಸೇರಿಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ಈಗಿರುವ ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ಗಿಂತನೂ ತುಂಬ ಉಚ್ಛ್ರಾಯ ಸ್ಥಿತಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಇವನು ಆ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ತನ್ನ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಗೆ ಅವನ ಟ್ಯಾಲೆಂಟನ್ನು ಹೈಯರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಇನ್ವೈಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಆ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಈ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ. ಅವನ ಟ್ಯಾಲೆಂಟಿನ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಈ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ನಡೆಯೋಕ್ಕೆ ಆರಂಭ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹೀಗೆ 1 ವರ್ಷ ನಡೆಯುತ್ತೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. 2ನೇ ವರ್ಷ ಇವನ ಮತ್ತು ಆ ಟ್ಯಾಲೆಂಟೆಡ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ನ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಸಮ್ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಯೂಟ್ ಬಿಗ್ಯಾನ್. ಆ ಒಂದು ಫಾಲೌಟ್, ಆ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆರಂಭ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಫಾಲೌಟ್, ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಫ್ರೇಸಲ್ ವರ್ಬ್. ಸೊ ಈ ಫಾಲೌಟ್ ಆರಂಭ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆಗ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಸಪ್ರೇಟ್ ಆಗೋದು ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ನಿಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಆಗ ಇವನ ಕಂಪನಿಯ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಅವನು ತನ್ನ ಪರ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು, ತನಗೆ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು, ಸ್ವತಃ ಫೌಂಡರ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪನಿ, ಫೌಂಡರ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪನಿ ಮುಂದೊಂದು ದಿನ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ಅಂತ ಫೇಮಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪನಿಯ ಫೌಂಡರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಂಥ ಈ ಸ್ಟೀವ್ ಜಾಬ್ಸನ್ನು ಆ ಟ್ಯಾಲೆಂಟೆಡ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ನು ಹೊರಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾನೆ. ಆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಂಪನಿಯ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಇವನು ತನ್ನ ಸಪೋರ್ಟಿಗೆ ತಗೊಂಡು ಇಡೀ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಯನ್ನೇ ಹೈಜಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಸೊ ಆಗ ಸ್ಟೀವ್ ಜಾಬ್ಸು ಹಿ ವಾಸ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ ಎ ಡಿವಾಸ್ಟೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್. ಅಂದರೆ ಅವನು ತುಂಬ ದುಸ್ಥಿತಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಅವನು ಒಂದು ವಾಟರ್ನಿಂದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಬಿಸಾಕಿದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಫಿಶ್, ಆಕ್ಸಿಜನ್ನೇ ಸಿಗದೆ ಒದ್ದಾಡ್ತಾ ಸಾಯ್ತಾ ಇರೋಂಥ ಒಂದು ಫಿಶಿನ ಥರ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ. ಸೊ ಆಗ ಮುಂದೇನು ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ ಏನು ಹೊಳೆಯಲ್ಲ. ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಐ ಆಮ್ ಆ್ಯನ್ ಅಟ್ಟರ್ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್, ಐ ಆಮ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಫೇಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್, ಹೌ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಐ ಶೋ ಮೈ ಫೇಸ್ ಟು ದ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಒಳಗೆ ಕೊರಗ್ತಾ ಕಾಲ ಕಳೀತಾ ಇರ್ತಾನೆ. ಏನು ಮಾಡೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಹಿ ಡಸ್, that's more important. Next, he moves here and there with that sad face and sad feelings, that burden of the public failure into his heart. He spends few days, few months, and then he meets his friends David Packard and Bob Noyce, and they guided him a little bit. He wants to get some guidance from them, and he sometimes thinks of running away from the valley. He thinks of just disappearing from there because of that utter failure, because of that public failure, that he couldn't face the public after that failure happened in his life. Though he was cheated by somebody, he never feels that he was cheated. He never feels that that man cheated him. He feels himself is a public failure. So he couldn't show his face to the society. He couldn't show his face to the public, and that's why sometimes he thinks of running away from the valley. But he did not run away because his love for his work stopped him thinking so, stopped him running away from the valley. And that love of his work brought a very quick dawn on him, very quick ray of hope, light of hope in his life. What is that dawn on him? What is that ray of hope that appeared, that light of hope that appeared in his life? He made another attempt of starting a company. He made another attempt of starting a company. That company is Next, that is called Next. And he started that company, and that company started working. And after some time, he started another company, that is Pixar. And that company, when he started these two companies, meanwhile, in that time, he fell in love with an amazing woman, and that woman was an MBA graduate, and he married her, and she became a very compatible, lovely wife to him. So his life of the couple life started so beautifully. So in the beginning of the second success, he fell in love with that woman and married her. And after that both companies started working, he successfully brought out the world's first computer animated feature film. The world's first computer animated feature film he brought out. And for that also he became so famous. And at that time, Apple company started to get into some trouble, and that's why they came to know the necessity of Steve Jobs, and that's why they themselves came forward to buy these two companies, Next and Pixar, with all the conditions laid down by Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs accepted that offer, and he returned to Apple company. He returned to his own company, who himself had established that company. He was kicked out, he was cheated, but he returned to that Apple company. So the result of getting fired in Apple company made him to start other two companies, and other two companies also brought him a great success, and that success brought him back to Apple company. And this success story, which is very, very sweet to be heard, and that sweet experience he presents in this story, Steve Jobs presents in this story. ಓಕೆ, ಈಗ ಈ ಎರಡನೇ ಕಥೆಯೊಳಗೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ಇವನ್ನ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಯಿಂದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಹೊರಗೆ ಹಾಕಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಇವನಿಗೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಇವನು ನೀರಿನಿಂದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಹಾಕಿದಂಥ ಮೀನಿನ ಥರ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ. ಮತ್ತು ಅಟ್ಟರ್ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಅಂತ ಇವನಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಡಕತ್ತೈತಿ. ಮತ್ತು ಇವನೊಂದು ದುಸ್ಥಿತಿಗೆ ನಾನು ತಳ್ಳಲ್ಪಟ್ಟನಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಈ ದುಸ್ಥಿತಿಯಿಂದ ಆಚೆ ಬರೋದು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಂತ ಚಿಂತೆಗೊಳಗಾಗ್ತಾನೆ. ಮತ್ತು ನಾನು ಯಾರ ಜೊತೆನೂ ಕೂಡ ಏನು ಹಂಚ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲಾರ ಸ್ಥಿತಿ ತಲುಪಿಬಿಟ್ಟೆ. ನಾನಿಲ್ಲಿ ಬದುಕೋದೇ ಕಷ್ಟ, ನಾನು ಈ ವ್ಯಾಲಿಯಿಂದ, ಈ ಸಿಲಿಕಾನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲಿಯಿಂದ ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಕೂಡ ಕಾಣದ ಹಾಗೆ ಕಣ್ಮರೆಯಾಗಿಬಿಡೋಣ, ಹೊರಟೋಗ್ಬಿಡೋಣ, ಓಡೋಗ್ಬಿಡೋಣ ಅಂತ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಹಂಗೆ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಕೆಲವು ಆತ್ಮೀಯರನ್ನು ಭೇಟಿ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಇವನು ಮನಸ್ಸು ಹೇಳ್ತೈತಿ. ಆಗ ಇವನು ಡೇವಿಡ್ ಪ್ಯಾಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಮತ್ತು ಬಾಬ್ ನಾಯ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋರನ್ನ ಮೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಅವರು ಅಡ್ವೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಅವನು ನಾನು ಓಡಿ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇರುವಾಗಲೇ ಅವನೊಳಗಿದ್ದ ಒಂದು ಆವಿಷ್ಕಾರ ಮಾಡುವ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನಿಗಿರೋವಂಥ ಆ ಲವ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅಫೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಇತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಜೀಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಲವ್ ಇನ್ ಇನ್ವೆನ್ಷನ್ಸ್, ಇನ್ ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ದಿ ಅಟೆಂಪ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಂಟ್ರಪ್ರಿನಿಯರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಇತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಅವನನ್ನು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಓಡಿ ಹೋಗಕ್ಕೆ ಬಿಡಲ್ಲ. ಆಗ ಅವನು ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ಬೆಳಕನ್ನು ಕಾಣ್ತಾನೆ. ಅದು ಆ ಇನ್ವೆನ್ಷನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ, ಅವನ ಕೆಲಸದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನಿಗಿರೋ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಕಾರಣದಿಂದ ಅವನ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ಬೆಳಕನ್ನು ಕಾಣ್ತಾನೆ. ಒಂದು ರೇ ಆಫ್ ಹೋಪನ್ನು, ಆಶಾ ಕಿರಣವನ್ನು ಅವನು ಕಾಣ್ತಾನೆ. ಅದೇನಪ್ಪ ಅಂದರೆ, ಈ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನು ಕೈ ಸುಟ್ಕೊಂಡ, ಅವನು ಮೋಸಕ್ಕೊಳಗಾದ. ಸ್ವತಃ ಅವನೇ ಸ್ಥಾಪನೆ ಮಾಡಿದಂಥ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಯಿಂದ ಆ ಟ್ಯಾಲೆಂಟೆಡ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಇವನನ್ನು ಆಚೆ ಹಾಕಿದ. ಇಡೀ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಯನ್ನೇ ಅವನು ಹೈಜಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟ. ಆದರೆ ಆ ಒಂದು ಕೈ ಸುಟ್ಕೊಂಡಂಥ ಅನುಭವ ಐತಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ಆರಂಭದಲ್ಲಿ, ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ಎಂಟ್ರಪ್ರಿನಿಯರ್ಶಿಪ್ಪಿನ ಆರಂಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನನ್ನು ಮತ್ತೆ ತಲ್ಲೀನನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಅವನು ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ಅಟೆಂಪ್ಟನ್ನು ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅದು ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನ್ ಆಯಿತು, ಅದೊಂದು ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಗೇಷನ್ ಆಯಿತು. ನಾನು ಹಿಂಗೆ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗಿಬಿಟ್ನಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಹಿಂಗೆ ಮೋಸ ಆಗಿಬಿಡುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಚಿಂತೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂತ ಅವನ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊರಗ್ತಾ ಹಾಗೆ ಹಾಳಾಗಿ ಹೋಗಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆದರೆ ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ಪಾಠ ಅಂತ ತಿಳಿದು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹೊಸ ಅಟೆಂಪ್ಟನ್ನು ಅವನು ಕೈಗೊಂಡ. ಆ ಹೊಸ ಅಟೆಂಪ್ಟಿನ ಒಂದು ರಿಸಲ್ಟೇ ಮೊದಲನೇದು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕಂಪನಿ. ಅದರ ನಂತರ ಪಿಕ್ಸಾರ್ ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ಅಂತ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಈ ಎರಡೂ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಯನ್ನು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಎರಡು ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದಿ ಅದರ್ ದೇ ಬಿಕೇಮ್ ಸೋ ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್. ಒಂದಾದ ನಂತರ ಒಂದು ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಗಳಾಗ್ತವೆ. ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಫೆಲ್ ಇನ್ ಲವ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಮ್ಯಾರಿಡ್ ಅ ವುಮನ್. ಅವನು ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಬಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬೀಳ್ತಾನೆ. ಒಬ್ಬ ಹೆಣ್ಮಗಳನ್ನ ಅವನು ಮದುವೆ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ, ಪಾವೆಲ್ ಅಂತ. ಆ ಹೆಣ್ಮಗಳು ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾನ್ಫೋರ್ಡ್ ದಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟು, ಒಬ್ಬ MBA ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟು. ಅವಳನ್ನ ಇವನು ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಸೊ ದಿ ಲವ್ ಅಫೇರ್ ಬಿಗಿನ್ಸ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ಬೋತ್ ಆಫ್ ದೆಮ್. ದೇ ಗೆಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾರಿಡ್. ಸೊ ಅವರಿಬ್ಬರು ಮದುವೆ ಆಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಒಂದು ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಕಪ್ಪಲ್ಲಾಗಿ ಜೀವನ ಆರಂಭ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಇಷ್ಟಾದ ಮೇಲೆ ಈ ಪಿಕ್ಸಾರ್ ಕಂಪನಿ ಜಗತ್ತಿನ ಮೊಟ್ಟ ಮೊದಲನೇ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಅನಿಮೇಟೆಡ್ ಫೀಚರ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮನ್ನು ಹೊರಗೆ ತರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಕಾರಣದಿಂದ ಈ ಕಂಪನಿಗಳು ತುಂಬ ಫೇಮಸ್ ಆಗ್ತವೆ. ಅಂಡರ್ ದ ಲೀಡರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಟೀವ್ ಜಾಬ್ಸ್, ದೀಸ್ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೀಸ್ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ಬ್ರಿಂಗ್ ಔಟ್ the world's first computer animated feature film. With that, these companies become famous. ಯಾವಾಗ ಈ ಕಂಪನಿಗಳು ಫೇಮಸ್ ಆದವೋ ಆಗ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪನಿಯವರು ಈ ಕಂಪನಿಗಳನ್ನು ಇನ್ವೈಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ತಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಒಂದಾಗಕ್ಕೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ಕಂಪನಿಗಳನ್ನು ಕೊಂಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ವೈಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಆಗ ಸ್ಟೀವ್ ಜಾಬ್ಸು ತನ್ನ ಹಿಂದಿದ್ದ ಅನುಭವವನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೆಲವು ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಹಾಕಿ ಆ ಕಂಪನಿಗಳನ್ನು ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪನಿಗೆ ಜೊತೆ ಮರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಅಥವಾ ಮಾರಾಟ ಮಾಡಿ ಇವನು ಆ ಕಂಪನಿಯನ್ನು ಸೇರಿಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ. ಸೊ ಹೀಗೆ ತಾನೇ ಹುಟ್ಟು ಹಾಕಿದಂಥ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪನಿಯಿಂದ ಇವನನ್ನು ಹೊರಗೆ ಹಾಕಲಾಗಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಸಾಧನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಆ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಗೆ ವಾಪಸ್ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ. ತಾನೇ ಹುಟ್ಟು ಹಾಕಿದಂಥ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ವಾಪಸ್ ಅವನು ಬರೋಕ್ಕೆ ಅವನ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಅಟೆಂಪ್ಟ್ ಕಾರಣ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನು ಕೈ ಸುಟ್ಕೊಂಡ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಅವನನ್ನು ಜೀವನ ತುಂಬ ಕೊರಗ್ತಾ ಹಾಳಾಗಂಗೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆ ಕೈ ಸುಟ್ಕೊಂಡಂಥ ಘಟನೆ ಎಂಥ ಒಂದು ಫಲಿತಾಂಶವನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವನು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಅಟೆಂಪ್ಟನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ಜಗತ್ಪ್ರಸಿದ್ಧ ಎಂಟ್ರಪ್ರಿನಿಯರ್ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಒಬ್ಬ ಡಿಸೈನರ್ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅದು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಹೌ ಹಿ ಗಾಟ್ ಫೈರ್ಡ್ in Apple company, and how he started the new companies Next and Pixar, and how he returned to his company which he himself had founded. And this is the love and loss. All this could be possible for him because of his love of work, and all that loss he suffered that gave him a lesson to come up in life once again, to make another attempt and to come up in life once again. And that is a very important thing that we can understand in reading this second story. See here, we can extract certain principles of success out of this story. What are the principles of success in the second story of love and loss? The principles of success are faith in oneself. See, when he got fired, he never lost the hope to come up in life completely. As it is very natural, when he was put in a devastating situation, he also got some ill ideas of getting away from there, ill ideas of inferiority complex, and ill ideas of just collapsing himself. But faith in his own ability that made him to go for one more attempt, and that brought success in his life. And that faith in his ability came into reality because of his love of work. Without having the zeal of work or love of work, one cannot get success. And these two, faith and love, faith in oneself and love in work, these two appear to be medicine of failure, to cure that failure, disease of failure, to cure that wound of failure. These two work as medicine. And then what is the profit of success? See, whoever goes after success, he should not aim at profit in the form of treasure, profit in the form of money, profit in the form of assets, but he should aim at the profit of self-satisfaction. And that self-satisfaction brings you whatever you want and as much as you want, but that self-satisfaction should itself be the profit of success, should itself be aimed at. Then only it brings you whatever you want in your life, and how much you want in your life, that much and that self-satisfaction brings. And then filling one's life with an unending great work. See, our Kuvempu tells, ಮನೆಯನೆಂದು ಕಟ್ಟದಿರು ಗುರಿಯನೆಂದು ಮುಟ್ಟದಿರು, ಎಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ನಿಲ್ಲದಿರು ಗುರಿಯನೆಂದು ಮುಟ್ಟದಿರು ಮನೆಯನೆಂದು ಕಟ್ಟದಿರು. Our Kuvempu tells these phrases. ಮನೆಯನೆಂದು ಕಟ್ಟದಿರು. Why shouldn't we build a house? Is it not an achievement? ಗುರಿಯನೆಂದು ಮುಟ್ಟದಿರು. Why shouldn't we reach our goal? Then ಎಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ನಿಲ್ಲದಿರು. Don't settle anywhere. Don't stop anywhere. See, these have a very great symbolic meaning. ಮನೆಯನೆಂದು ಕಟ್ಟದಿರು means don't put the boundaries to your life. If you put the boundaries, your life will be just confined to that boundary. You will lose your ability to go beyond that. And ಗುರಿಯನೆಂದು ಮುಟ್ಟದಿರು means Don't reach goal means don't end up your life. Don't end up your entrepreneurship. Don't end up your strive. Don't end up your hard work. So you have to be active, vibrant till the last breath that takes you to greater goal and greater achievements. And never to settle down. Don't settle down with a little satisfaction of a small achievement or one achievement. You should not stop working in your life, and these are the principles the second story presents to us as the graduating students. These should be very much useful for your life. These should be very much didactic to your life, and you should take them as the great principles of your life also. So here you could know the second story of Steve Jobs. That Steve Jobs narrated that second story in his commencement address, and that story is not the story of anybody else, it is his own story. And in this story he gives us a lesson where everybody who listens to that story is made to learn failure is a step to success. Failure is a step to success. Though it is an old saying, but in this story it is very meaningfully brought out. And then learn to overcome the problem from earlier failures. So it is very natural for everybody to fail in one or the other attempts. But any failure should not make you retreat from your attempt. Any failure should not make you retreat from your attempt. And that is what you have to learn out of this story, the second story. Learn to overcome the problem from earlier failures. And another, the principles and profit of success. Usually, we the common people think that to earn money is success. To earn treasure is success. To earn lot of assets and property is success. But according to Steve Jobs, that is not success. Success is something that gives us self-satisfaction. And such principles will bring you whatever you want, but don't go after such earthly satisfactions. You go after self-satisfaction. And if you achieve that self-satisfaction, the other earthly satisfactions will come on their own. So you need not go behind them. So these are the important principles that are very beautifully said or expressed by Steve Jobs in the second story. I think as far as the second story is concerned, I narrated the story in detail. You could understand the story in detail, and you could understand how it makes you inspired. With this much, I think it is enough. I will put an end to my presentation. Thank you. Thank you.